Okay, good morning. This is Cindy Welch, the Assistant Director here at Swiftland. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Is It True? How to Verify Digital Sources Like a Rock Star, with Dr. Stephanie Rollins. Dr. Rollins is a research and writing specialist at the Air University Press at Maxwell Air Force Base. She is also an adjunct professor for the University of Alabama and teaches digital reference, collection development, and organization of information, among other courses. Stephanie serves on both regional and state library committees and has 23 years of experience in academic and special libraries. She holds a BA in English from Auburn University, a master's degree in library science, and a doctorate in public administration, both from the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, y'all. Please help me welcome Dr. Rollins. Dr. Rollins. Dr. Rollins, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. For some reason, I can't hear you guys, but that's totally okay. I've got Deb. I can see her, and I know that she's talking for us as well. So fantastic. Thank you so much for the introduction, Cindy. It's great to finally meet you virtually at least. And I'm really excited today to talk to you about verifying digital resources. This is not something that's new to us, but I want to share a quote with you that I really like. And I really felt like Hemingway meant he was talking about librarians when he said this, that every man, and I inserted this librarian, I took poetic justice here, should have a built-in automatic crap detector operating inside him. And I think we do a fantastic job of that in our professional settings. But I'm human just like you, and I don't always catch everything. And so today, what we're going to do is talk about some of the things about verification versus fact checking. Fake news is really hot as far as, a librarian topic, but it's been with us for forever. We've done this before, not just with news, but with other sources. So I'm going to talk about some examples that are historical. I am going to talk about some terminology that you need to be aware of that's kind of out there. I am also trying to get rid of a notification that I thought I had closed. Apologies. I'm also going to talk about some modern examples. Why is this our role? Why us? Why should we focus on what we call this digital truth, knowing your truth? Some strategies for evaluating news and other resources. I have a real quick activity I'm hoping that we can fit in. I'm going to talk to you about some fact-checking sites. Also, some basic strategies for checking websites, some sites for that, how to check on people. Are they real, in fact? We want to know if what they say is real and the sources they use are real, but who are they? Do they actually exist? And there's some sites for that. Snowstorm and what have you, we'll get to that. There's strategies for checking claims about weather and location. There's also some things you can do to check images and videos because people make, these fantastic, funny things and sometimes things that are actually kind of hurtful with images. And how can you find that original image and what it really was? I've got a final checkpoint for you, some training sites and resources, and then some strategies for moving forward. So we've got a ton to cover. But first of all, one of the things I've discovered as an editor that the journalists, editors, writing, editing people are really into is this thing called verification. And so I just want to start by kind of covering that just a little bit. And so some people ask, are they the same thing? And a lot of times people talk about verification and fact checking. And so verification, and I would say that it's not just used by journalists, but also by us to verify the accuracy of a statement. And we'll get to the PolitiFact site later. It's a great site for checking political facts. So this is according to Bill Adair, who runs that site. So verification is a discipline that lies at the heart of journalism, and I would also say library science. I think we have a leg up on journalists because we have even better skills to check facts and to verify things, because that's what we do in our jobs. Really, is we have this scientific-like approach to getting facts and also the right facts. Fact checking is kind of an application of this verification. And they kind of share the same, they overlap, they share some of the same DNA when you're thinking about trying to figure out if something is true. So it's going to continue to increase in our world when we look at, user-generated content, when you think about online investigations, humanitarian work, different things like that. So what is fake news? I know that we all know what this is. Uh, Donald Trump, for sometimes, thinks it's anything that doesn't agree with his view, because that's what I'm reading in the news lately, is that what we think fake news is, and librarians think fake news is what's on the screen here, right? But it's come to mean you disagree. It's fake news. So think about the definitions that we're looking at here and not what Donald Trump talks about. So false news stories often, for generating ads, web traffic, discrediting a political figure, Trump, Bernie Sanders. There's all kinds of things out there on Facebook and the web, whatever your political views, that are trying to discredit people, right? Or discredit a company. So it's false, it's fake, it's counterfeit. And it's been around at least until 1980, and sometimes even things as early as ancient times in the 16th century. False stories that appear to be news spread on the internet or other media, usually for influence, joke, to sell something. And sometimes it looks real. It really looks real. There's so many ways to fake the news or to fake information. So you have to be really careful. But really, this is nothing new. There are a ton of historical examples. I'm just going to talk to you about a few of them. One of them is when you're looking at the ancient times with Octavius and Mark Antony. So he actually ran a smear campaign in the news of the time, and we all know what happened with that. Downfall of the Greek Empire. Also, there in medieval times in 1475. So again, this is nothing new. There was a news story in Trent that the Jewish community had murdered a 2.5-year-old Christian infant named Simonio, and that resulted in the Jews being tortured, and several of them were burned at stake. So just kind of, you think this is kind of crazy stuff, but it's really not. It's not that new. Another early modern period is when Benjamin Franklin wrote about fake news about scalping Indians, working with King George III. He actually wrote this entire fake newspaper. Getting over kind of to the 19th century, there was the Great Moon Hoax of 1835. And that's when the New York Sun published articles about this real-life astronomer and a made-up colleague who had observed bizarre life on the moon. So these things are not new. And then finally, we will get to kind of some modern examples in just a minute. So have you heard of any of these examples here before? Were you aware that fake news went this far back? And you can just type in the chat box if you have a question or a comment. I so appreciate those when you do. Also, propaganda in World War II, probably the ultimate fake, and which really scared people at the time, was the Orson Welles when he did his War of the News radio announcement. It really did scare quite a few people. But it looked real. It sounded real. Okay, so some of the terms to know about when you're looking at fake news or fake information are clickbait. And those are things when people put an ad up. I'm going to show you some real quick examples of these. When people put an ad up to try to get you to click on it, like vitamin D helps with, if you get a sun lamp, it'll help you with your vitamin D. It gets you to try and click on an image. Confirmation bias. And that's the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of your existing beliefs or theories. And that's when you don't actually seek out news, but information when you log in sometimes is kind of filtered for you. And it kind of just reinforces what you think, either, socially, politically, whatever it might be. Disinformation, this is what we're fighting almost every day, either in your personal or professional lives. And that's information that's intentionally meant to mislead. Sometimes it can be propaganda. Sometimes it can be leaked by a rival power. A hoax is just simply a form of fake news. It's completely made up. And I'm going to show you some places where you can find out what those are and you can check for them. Misinformation is false information, or sometimes it's just information that's spread unintentionally. Post-truth, this is when you when facts, objective facts, are less influential in shaping public opinion, then appeals to emotion and personal belief. So there may be objective facts, but people don't believe them because it doesn't satisfy their emotional needs. Satire, there's some great sites out there that kind of make fun of people. They expose people's stupidity, different things like that. And then the filter bubble, which I've kind of mentioned before, which is when you log in either to Google to do a search or whatever it might be, and everything's filtered for you. It kind of tailors it. If you've gone to Old Navy and looked at a shirt, it's going to be in your news feed as something to look at. So it's kind of this filter bubble. And really, it tends to reflect our own likes, values, and beliefs. And sometimes it isolates us from seeing the other side of an issue, things like that. So this is clickbait. These supermodels apply these 3 tricks to look young. Propaganda, when it's intentionally trying to mislead you. So you would want to double check the facts here on this breaking story about Obama and Hillary promising amnesty to any illegal that votes Democrat. That already sounds wrong and false to me, but I would want to go through my checklist, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, to find that out. Satire parody, there's things like The Onion, Waterford Whispers, The Daily Mash, and this is where it's done to make fun of somebody or to point out somebody's stupidity. So this one is, a driver got mad because somebody threw up in an ambulance because they were in an accident. I mean, just kind of sometimes really dumb stuff. Sloppy journalism. Sometimes journalists publish things without reliable information, or they don't check all the facts. So for instance, the retailer Urban Outfitters published an election day guide, and the guide contained incorrect information telling voters they needed a voter registration card. Also misleading headings. Sometimes stories that are not completely false can be distorted using kind of a sensational headline, so kind of related to that clickbait. So for instance, this one is on Gardasil, which people have kind of gotten up in arms about. And then also sometimes there's biased or slanted news. People sometimes seek out news stories that kind of confirm their own beliefs, whether or not the story is true. And social media, like we said, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they tend to display those feeds that they think we'll like based on our personalized searches. Probably the ultimate story is about Pizzagate. Do you guys know about this one? If you do, just type a quick yes in the chat box. It's probably one of the biggest examples. Yes. Okay, great. So everybody kind of knows about this. Probably almost as famous as the Russia propaganda trying to influence the elections, supposedly, that kind of thing. So it's big as that. And if you don't know, what it was is Hillary Clinton's email was hacked, and what happened was it sent out emails saying that these pizza places were a meeting ground for satanic ritual abuse and child endangerment and different things like that. So this guy came and basically with a gun, and also other pizza owners were harassed. It was a huge deal. If you're interested, you can kind of look at it. It was. I mean, I couldn't believe that things actually went that far, but it just shows you the power of misinformation and people not having those skills to check facts. So kind of scary. The thing about today about coronavirus kind of bothers me with the impetus of social media and how is that going to be twisted. And have you guys already seen things that look fake about coronavirus in some of the news and social media and posts? Have you seen that already? If not, I'm just curious. It's not part of this presentation. I just wondered if you've seen anything yet about that where people have put out fake news on the coronavirus, or if you have any other experiences with fake news or false information, please type it in the chat box. It'd be really kind of interesting to know if you have a quick story. So you have to ask the question, how can we deal with this? How are we equipped to be the ones fighting for correct information? And here's my, my superhero, Nancy Pearl. And basically, we are champions of, you know, uh, information. We want to promote lifelong learning and literacy. We're fighters of the filters. We support this idea of digital citizenship, being curious, and having the freedom to find information, but also being able to verify it. So we're the perfect people. We know how to evaluate. These digital sources are no different than information we look at every day, even, scholarly things. We do the same checklist. And we can educate our patrons. We can counter fakeness with information and media literacy. We can build collections and programming, something like this you can take and use in your library. One of the quick things I'm going to show you that's a quick tool you can actually just share with your patrons. And it's super easy to use. You don't have to download anything. We build our collections to focus on these things. And also we partner with local, state, and national organizations, our schools, different things like that. And ultimately, we are advocates for skepticism. We provide, a wide variety of material, not just one source. We have, social media, we have printed material, videos, books, documents, and also classes and hands-on activities that can help our patrons re-examine how they approach this, what we call this digital truth. We're pathfinders, and we are creators and arbiters of trusted information. We're technology and data experts, and we are master teachers in a patron's lifelong learning and personal growth. That's just a little pep talk, but we're awesome at this. We know how to find digital truth. And why should we focus on it? Well, as far as information, about 4 in 10 Americans get news online. And if you look at the age group breakdown, it's a significant portion of people. And who cares? What's the big point here? Basically, people deserve the truth. We're smart. We can make up our own mind, but we need to have the facts in front of us, and we need to have those skills to evaluate what the facts are. And we have every right to be insulted when we see fake information because we're basically being treated like we're dumb, and that's not right. Also, if you've ever posted something, unfortunately, and just didn't check it, you just were busy, you reshared it on Facebook, it can destroy your credibility. If your argument's built on bad information, people are going to say, oh, well, they posted that thing about such and such. I'm not sure if this is, true, which is a skill in itself because they are going to check it, but it kind of hurts your credibility. It can also hurt other people. It can perpetuate myths that aren't true, like things with AIDS and autism and vaccinations. People are all up in arms about that. And also, the truth can benefit you when you get the right information. For instance, if you want to invest in a company, you want to vote in an election, right? The primary was just, a few days ago. You need to have the proper information. And fake information will not make money. I disagree. I think sometimes it can make a ton of money depending on people who don't check their facts. But it can it's just important because having the real information can make your world a better place, and it can indeed help you with finances, elections, health, all those different things where you want to have the true facts. Again, so just to kind of hammer this home, it's fake news and fake information is not a new concept. We talked about that. But the consequences of these stories are far-reaching. If you think about the 2016 election, which Facebook, shouldered much of the blame, it's just difficult to know what to trust. So the consequences are far-reaching. And of course, we've all seen the ads that are disguised as news stories. They look authentic. People are getting good with, Adobe and different image software, and it looks real. And again, we have to, be aware of our own filter bubble, our own preferences about news and our own beliefs, and think about looking at alternate views and alternate sides when we're doing fact checking and verification. And then again, people think that fake news causes confusion. They're not sure about how to check basic facts. And I think this is an ideal niche for librarians to be able to have this skill that we can teach people. We've been teaching them all along, but it's just become more popular kind of in the news to talk about it. And again, people aren't confident about their ability to recognize fake news or fake information. And a third said they see political news online and or inaccurate news. So again, it's really important for us to focus on that on this. And people have shared things. Unfortunately, even with what I know, I've shared a couple things. Nothing harmful, but again, it speaks to your credibility, so you have to be careful. Again, the public, the politicians, social media all receive the share of responsibility. And I would add librarians also in that headline there, because we are in a place where we can teach people these skills. Again, finally, this just kind of hammers it home. This is a little bit dated, but 2016, there was a study carried out by Stanford's graduate school, and it had about just almost 8,000 responses from middle school, high school, and college students in 12 U.S. states, and it was about their ability to assess information sources. And they were shocked. Students, they couldn't evaluate information at even a basic level as distinguishing advertisements for articles. So again, it's a spot for teachers, for librarians, you as a person to educate people. And it's because people get duped by this sponsored content, and they don't always recognize the political bias of social messages, or if it's just an incorrect fact. So there's a couple strategies here that speak to how to spot fake news, but also just how to evaluate information in general. Again, this is just very quick. I've got links here for you. These are things that we've always done. We've considered who the author is. Reading behind the headline to check, look at the whole article. Check out the authors, Google them. Again, assess the supporting claims. If there's any research that's listed or sources, what's the date of the publication? Is there no date? That's kind of important. And see if it's a joke. Sometimes it's a joke if it's too outlandish, right? Or if it might be satire. And then look to yourself, look at your own biases to see if they're affecting your judgment about this article. And also ask experts. Ask somebody who's a subject matter expert on this topic. Hey, does this sound right? If it's something about history or medical, that's some of the ways you can help to spot fake news. This one is more geared towards kids. They have a whole kind of media approach that kind of speaks to kids. Same kinds of things, do the facts hold up? Who is the source? What's the big picture? Who's the intended audience? Why was this made? And how is this information presented? So some of the same things when you're thinking about fake news. Probably one of my favorites kind of at the academic level is what they call the CRAP test, CRAAP. So it speaks to kind of a checklist where you can give, in the box, if you can give it a certain number of points, and at the end get an idea of the range of whether or not it's okay or not. But again, some of the same things. So these are things that we've always done. We've looked at the timeliness of the article or news. We've looked at the relevance. Is this important? Who is the author? What's the authority? We looked at the accuracy. Is this truthful? Yes, Christine, just because it's on the internet, it's not necessarily true. Absolutely. That's a fantastic point. And it is hard. My sons will tell you that I always kind of do the crap test with them when they say, "Oh, did you hear blah blah blah?" And I'm like, well, "What's your source? What do they cite any sources?" So they've grown up with that, and not a lot of eighth graders get that at home. I think probably just because I'm a librarian and I want to make sure that they're educated about what's out there in the world. So yeah, great point. I would also say, what's the purpose? And so this is kind of a worksheet, and the link is here. And you can make a online calculator with this. It's fantastic. So you could totally automate this. And I actually did that when I was at Stanford. And it kind of gives the students a really quick and dirty evaluation on whether or not this is good information or not. Okay. Post-truth. Um, so let's say you get facts and maybe they're not exactly correct. If it's something that appeals to your emotional needs, you may discount the facts or you may endorse the facts. So it's what truth you're presented with, but after you get that truth, how you react because of your feelings. Does that make sense? Okay. Sorry if I didn't. Yeah, post-truth is so you kind of know your truth, but you may ignore it, or you know your truth, but it doesn't support the facts that you're being presented with. So despite the truth, you're going on emotion, or it's your filter bubble or the way you see the world. There used to be a fantastic list, and nobody can keep up with a list like this about fake news or misleading sources. But there's some tips that are out there. If something ends in .co or .lo, be careful. And also think about if other places on the internet or authorities on this topic are not posting something, it might not be happening. Sometimes odd domain names are also rarely truthful. And sometimes if there is no author, not always, but sometimes if there is no author, it could be that the story is suspect and you need to do some more checking. And also some news organizations are letting bloggers post under their banner of that news site. And they don't often go through the same editing and fact checking. Some examples are BuzzFeed, sometimes community posts, Forbes blogs. So if you get something that's under a masthead of an organization or journal that you recognize, you may want to do some further checking. And some other things you can do, again, look at the authority, check the About Us tab on websites. You can use Snopes or Wikipedia for more information about the source, or just Google the person. All caps is sometimes a dead giveaway. If the story makes you really angry, like talking about that post-truth, it's a good idea to maybe keep reading about the topic through other sources to make sure the story you read just didn't make you angry because it doesn't support your worldview. If your website your reading encourages you to dig up profiles, pictures, addresses, and emails from public sources, it's probably not going to be legitimate. And it's always, we know this, best to read multiple sources of information to get a variety of viewpoints and media views. So sometimes, sometimes news sources are problematic because they go back and forth. And so they often require readers to kind of, extend that to be more reliable. So there's more checking you have to do. So very quickly, I'm going to share my screen with you so we can do this together. But this is a really quick game. It might be great with 8th graders. Some of the articles that I looked at when I did a quick check were pretty easy reading level. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me just a second. And we're just going to go through this first round. And I'm just going to have you guys tell me if you think it's real or if you think it's fake. And we're just going to do a couple really quick because I know we don't have a ton of time. So let me share my screen with you just a second. I appreciate your patience. Okay, so this is the website. Hopefully everybody can see it. It might be a little bit of a delay. And you can also do this on your phone. You don't have to download an app. So you can, you just click on OK. Oops, sorry. Click on OK. And it's going to take you through a bunch of different rounds. So all you have to do is click on, the different levels if you want to. I'm going to click on easy. And you just click on it if you think it's yes, if it's, the check mark if it's good and the X if it's no. So here's our first example. And this is round 1 of 3. So sometimes you can tell from the title. What's also great is if you scroll down, you can have it show you the source, and sometimes that helps you. You see it's from viralchords.com, but this title is, Alabama requires birth certificate to use public bathroom. So just type in the chat box if you think this is true or false. False. False, okay. Looks like most people think it's false. Just the title, and again, like I said, for middle schoolers, this might be a great thing. It's also got levels for college. So I'm going to click on false and let's see if we got it right. It's fake. So, and it also tells you because of the source, it's a satire site, the word of insane. Also, the sources are named, but the story doesn't say why they are quoted. Are they state officials, lawyers? So there's a lot of doubt here. Okay, let's do one more real quick. Okay, this is a crazy one. Suspected drunken driver runs back to burning car to light cigarette. So true or false? I'm going to scroll down and show you a little bit about it really quickly. And I'm going to click on show source. And it's foxnews.com. And realize we're doing this very quickly. I know you would check it out a little bit more. So you say true. Sorry, thank you so much for posting the website in there, Cindy. True, true, okay. It sounds crazy, right? Okay, so I'm going to click on true. Let's see what we get. And you're correct. It was a news article, and now we've got 43 points. Fox is a major news cable news network. Now, would I do some further checking? Absolutely, but yeah, definitely. You can see this is kind of checking some of the facts for you. Okay, we'll do one last one, just because I know you guys want to really, right? So this one says, Rudy Giuliani says truth isn't truth. Kind of fits in with our presentation, right? He's looking at Robert Mueller, the investigation, truth is truth. No, truth isn't truth. Anyway, so let me show you the source. CNN.com. So do you guys, okay. So I'm going to click on true. And you're right, it's true. Okay, all right, great, fantastic. Thank you for playing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back and show you a couple of fact-checking sites. So just 1 second. Thank you for your patience. I know this gives us a bit of a delay. Okay, and we should be back just now. Okay. It's a little bit of a delay here. Sorry. This is why I don't share often. Yeah, exactly. Wait. Okay, so it's just a tool for you to use with your patrons or your students. Okay, so some of the sites I want to show you, there's a description here and they're listed, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of show them to you and talk to you about them very quickly. So all sides will rate the bias of different news sites and label them according to kind of where they fit on a political spectrum. So you can see here from the center, from the right, from the left. Turkey warns Trump against recognizing Jerusalem. This is so it kind of gives you different perspectives, which again helps with that filter bubble that we have. The next one is Fact Check. This is a product of the Annenberg Public Policy Center, and it can check up on political change. There's also a Sci Check, a Health Watch, so those may be things you want to check out as well. So you can see it's kind of checking on these political facts that are posted out there. The next one is called Hoax Slayer, and this is focuses on email hoaxes, identity theft scams, spam, different things like that. So if you get a message, you can kind of come here and check that. Hoaxy, which is a little bit more advanced than probably you might want, but what this does, it's kind of neat, is it visualizes the spread of claims and related fact-checking online. So you can look at how a claim has spread across social media. So this is about Pizzagate, and so it looks at kind of how it spread over social media, which can be kind of interesting to see how fast things spread on the internet. Okay, the next one is, just a second, catch up with you. Media Fact Check. And again, this is 2,000 media sources in a database, and you can check to see, type in the URL name of your source to see if there's a bias in your source. So it's kind of a neat way to kind of check that. The next one that we mentioned kind of at the beginning is PolitiFact. And what this does, this actually has a truthometer, and it researches the claims of politicians and actually checks their accuracy. One of the subtopics over here you'll see circled is pants on fire, which kind of really tells you if somebody is basically lying, which is kind of interesting when it comes to politics. Is truth truth, right? So kind of interesting. The next one is one that might be new to you, is called Poynter. And this actually is a place that develops resources for journalists and writers, and I would also say librarians, even though it's not specifically aimed to that. But it has some training on fact checking and also media literacy for the general public. Probably one that we are all familiar with is called Snopes. And what this does is it debunks urban legends, stories, and things like that. So I'd be interested to come here and see if there's any kind of urban legends going around right now about the coronavirus. So I might do that after we finish, just to see if there's any kind of things out there. And finally, the Washington Post fact checker. And of course, there's tons of ways you can check facts. These are just a few that I recommend in terms of, it being election, and you're also getting hit with spam and different stories and things like that. There's a ton of other sites out there, but these are just a few that can kind of basic, checking to see what's going on. So what this does, Washington Post fact checker, is it looks at the truth about different statements, again, that political figures are making. And so it's just another way to do that. So a couple of really basic. So we know how to check information and websites. We've gone through some of the evaluation techniques about looking at the author, the date, different things like that. Well, there are also some very basic things you can do just to look at the website itself. And there's a couple of sites. One is called Who Is Lookup, and one is called Spy on the Web, and I'm going to show you those pretty quickly. So Who Is Lookup? So what this does is it looks up the URL. You can type it in, and it tells you who owns it, if they own a bunch of other sites, and you can get some information from this, because if it's on 28 or 30 different servers, it sounds kind of to me like this site is pinging around. It's not a true reliable site. And also, the one that I just showed you that says fake, that's what this one is. I put that in. And it's supposed to be a place to get information on immigration. And it's not put out, if you can tell from the registrant, by the government. It's a government technology agency. So I'm kind of skeptical that this is a real site. The other one is called Spy on the Web. And so for this one, I did CNN, and you can see all the other sites that it owns. It will also give you an Alexa rank, which kind of tells you, hey, this is a real site. So again, some basic things that you can do with websites. So checking people, whether you're checking the authority of a source that's scholarly, or you want to know if this newspaper article is real. You also want to know if people are real to begin with, period. Whether you're looking at an employee to hire, whatever it might be, you're approached by somebody that has this great business deal. You want to make sure that this person is real. Their message is real, of course, but you want to make sure they're real. So if you look here, this is a Twitter post, Dr. Stephanie Rollins, I'm a doctor, right? And so I posted, did you know that oregano can help cure arthritis and pain caused by running? Did you guys know that? Well, so there's different things we can do to check on people. Obviously, this is fake. If you see that it's a screen capture, definitely doubt it. So the questions you want to ask is, who is this person? Are they real? And did they really post this story? The other thing is, if you look at this person here, so you can be anybody you want to be on the internet. You can make a fake profile. If you go to this site, Fake Person Generator, you can be, it tells you like your favorite color, how much money you make. You can completely take this fake profile and do some things. You can have a fake Tinder. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of things that are out there where people can, fake themselves. So in terms of, being in the dating world, not just the information world. It's just kind of scary out there. So you really need to find ways to check on people. So these are a couple of sites I wanted to show you very quickly. And the first one is called WebMe. And this one is a place, I'm going to actually go to the slide so you can see what it looks like while I talk. And I'm going to share my screen for a second. Of course, you can use Google, absolutely. But these are some sites that kind of give you a little bit of different information. If you're trying to verify if somebody's real, if they're an authority or not, these are some different places that you can go to. So I just want to share my screen with you very quickly and show you kind of what this WebMe looks like, because it was quite interesting to me, a little bit creepy, like most things on the web that find you. But it just was a little bit different. So I want to share that with you really quickly and just kind of show you what it found on me. So did it share my screen? Hold on just a second. Okay, there we go. So it is sharing my screen. So if you look, it found me in LinkedIn that I'm a project editor at Air University Press. That's not a picture of me, obviously, but it's Maxwell Air Force Base. I see people I know here. And then looky here, just recently, one of the last presentations I did for Swiftland, Reader's Advisory Meets Collection Development. It picked up something when I went to a conference at Electronic Resources and Libraries in 2017. Here's when I first arrived at Sanford. I mean, that's a blog. There are some other presentations I've done. I was part of the Library School Association of Alabama. I've put out a newsletter, government documents. So it's just a little bit different, and kind of the information that's here. So I just wanted to kind of show that to you. And it was pretty accurate for a lot of it. A couple things were not me, but it was pretty interesting and a kind of a different way of looking at people. Same thing in Google here. It did find a ton of stuff, but take advantage of the different people sharing software that's out there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll be right back. Just one second. Okay, so that was WebMe, and I'm not going to show you all of them, but I just wanted to show you one that was kind of a little bit different. Give me just one second here. Okay, so the next one is called PQ, and I didn't really find much on me with this one, but you could try it. It does a little bit extra. Sometimes it'll go into social sites like Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram. So we'll find a little bit different information. White pages, we all know about white pages, and some of these sites you would have to pay for, but they really give you a ton of information before you even get there. So I typed my name in, and I just typed Alabama, and I was the second result, so now you guys know my age. But it's really interesting, and you can click on view full report. It's going to want you to pay, but it still gives you a little bit more information than what's on the screen here. So again, you can see if this person's real. I am real. So that's just something that gives you that security sometimes when you're just not sure about people in the world anymore. LinkedIn, of course, is one of our go-to sites for looking at professional people. Again, you could fake your profile, but LinkedIn, it's a little bit more reputable sometimes than doing a Google search. So I typed in my name here. And I'm not even logged into LinkedIn. It's acting like I don't even have an account. And it gave me a ton of information here. So I just want to show you. It really gives you a lot of information on people. So that's another way to kind of find people. So any questions so far? Been talking quite a bit. So if not, that's okay. So when I mentioned in the agenda, snowstorm and what have you, sometimes people post these claims that, oh, look at my view, or I can't believe this happened to me, or whatever. So there's ways that you can check that. If you know about the weather and then like tornadoes and what clouds look like and what hail should look like, that's fantastic. That's another way you can kind of check the weather. But these are two claims here. So what I want to know is, for the first one, just type in the chat box really quickly. Do you think this is true? So this is, can you believe this fake snowstorm? I'm sorry, can you believe this freak snowstorm? I had to leave my car and spend the night in the library. Do you believe this is true or false? False, yes. False. Okay, all right, fantastic. And then the second one, we'll continue. From my window, I can see the mountains laid out before me. This is the beginning of the dry season, so I can smell grass and horses and hear bird song. The landscape is very dramatic. Do you think this is true or false? And this is coming from Wetumpka, Alabama. Okay, all right. So let me show you a couple ways that you can verify this. So in terms of the weather, and in terms of location, there's a couple of sites. Weather Underground has a history section, so you can go back to any period in time and look at the weather. So you can verify things about the weather, different things like that. The other one is Google Earth, which you're probably pretty familiar with. So here's the results. This is actually true. I did spend the night in the library at Stanford and Birmingham, and you can see this is from Weather Underground, and you can see that there was precipitation. You probably might be more of an expert at looking at weather graphs than I am, but that is true. The second one, however, this is my neighborhood. Wetumpka's, you probably know this already, unless you get to kind of northern Alabama, but there's no mountains near me. So this is the view would be the view from my window. So you could just have Google Earth Wetumpka, Alabama. You didn't have to have my specific address. So that's ways you can kind of debunk weather and location claims. Okay, so just a couple of things. So there's also some strategies for checking images and videos. So this is one of the weird things here, that Michelle Obama was holding a sign that says an immigrant is taking my job, when the actual image was this: bring back our girls, from BBC News. This is a video where a snowboarder girl, I don't know why they have it that way, that's just the title of it, was being chased by a bear. So do you think the snowboarder girl is true or false? Let me know in the chat box. And I'm going to talk about how you can check these images and how you can check video. There's a couple of sites I want to talk to you about. So let me show you the sites here. The first one is called Veracity, and you can use an image from your camera, your photo library. You can use something, Dropbox, whatever it might be, and you can upload the photo, and it will actually search and tell you where the images where similar images on the internet are, and you can kind of look at that. The next one is Google Reverse Image. This is a fantastic one. So what you can do is you can find the original source of photographs, memes, I hope I'm saying that right, and profile pictures. So you can actually backtrack that. This is just kind of how you do it. Another one that I really like that's super easy, you can actually drag pictures from anywhere into this search box up here where it says upload, paste, or enter image URL. And so what I did, I took that picture of Michelle Obama where supposedly she has the picture of an immigrant is stealing my job, and I sorted it by oldest, and this was the image I found. So you can kind of make sure an image is true. You can find that original image. Now, when it comes to videos, this is the snowboarder girl. This is Amnesty International, and it can extract hidden data from YouTube. And what it does is it extracts images and thumbnails, and you can actually run a reverse image search. You can, if you see up here, you can click on reverse image search, and it will try to find if there's earlier copies of the video, probably without the bear, right? And you can see actual upload date, which can also be different from the timestamp, which can give you some information. And it can also help you find older or original versions of the same video. So kind of a neat way to kind of look at some of those videos. And this one is fake. It's been all over the internet as an example. So very quickly, just do a final check. Just in the chat box, I've given you some tips on how to find people, how to look at information. What tools would you use to verify that this guy is this Dr. Rice, and he's an expert in the podiatry field in New York, New York. This is his phone number. and he's 57 years old. What are some things, what's maybe the first thing you might do? Everybody's typing. LinkedIn white pages, perfect. Google white pages, WebMe, perfect. Medical associations, absolutely, Faith. White pages. What's something we just talked about images, that might be your first big clue? PQ, fantastic. State licenses, perfect, absolutely. Google reverse images. Rebecca, you get a star. Or Tiny Eye. Because if you reverse image this in Google or use Tiny Eye, you're going to see it's a free stock image of lonely guy sitting in church. So this is not our doctor, in case you wanted the answer. But again, there's different ways that you can test yourself, test your students, your family. So again, these are ways that you can verify. Of course, we're obsessed with if it is information real, but is the authority on the source real? Is the picture real? These are also things that we need to think about in terms of our digital world. Okay, so thank you for playing again. Fantastic. So there's a couple of sites I want to talk to you about in terms of training and more resources, and I'm going to go through these really quickly. So this is called Common Source Media. All these sites that I'm showing you are free. I try to show you stuff that's free because if you're like my library, we don't have a ton of money. We're the government. So unfortunately, we tend to find free stuff as well. So I try to share those with you. Also, I don't want to have to register for something. Sometimes you have to register and then they want you to pay, and I don't like that whole scenario. So I try to show you free things. So the first one is Common Sense Media, and this has free resources. It reviews digital tools. It has a K through 12 digital citizen curriculum. So I can't remember, I'm sorry, the person who teaches 8th grade, that might be something you want to look at if you don't already have a great program in your library already, which it sounded like you did. And it's also got ready-made lesson plans, videos, webinars, and more. So not just for K through 12, because college students, even regular people could probably benefit from this. The next one is the Digital Resource Center. It's the Center for News Literacy. It also has resources to teach news literacy, including a complete course pack. So, and we're talking about news literacy here, but really, it's about digital literacy. It's about information literacy. So all these things would help you with that. Again, this is the site for the fake news. They have a ton of publications and things and PDFs that they will let you have for free, which I think is fantastic. Also, this is from the programminglibrarian.org, and it's got a bunch of different webinars and libguides and resources on fake news. So that's a fantastic thing you might want to check out. Also, if you, oops, sorry, went too far. Sorry about that. There's also some libguides and some news literacy projects and a verification handbook. So let me show you those real quick. So this is actually a whole section on SpringShare about fighting fake news, and tons of libraries that have done libguides, which are basically research guides, which are fantastic ways, put together by librarians to help people fight fake news. The next one is Making Sense of the News Literacy Lessons for Digital Citizens. And so this is kind of an online course that might be helpful. It's got, 6 different weeks that you can look at. Also, this is a free online source called Web Literacy for Student Fact Checkers. It's completely open source and free. It provides alternative web native approaches to news literacy and fact checking. And last but not least, to bring it back to a little bit about what I started with, this is a series of free open source verification handbooks. So you see in the content list over here, verifying video, verifying images, putting the human crowd to work. So that's another thing, is crowdsourcing can help you decide whether information is correct or not. So this kind of puts it in the terms of disaster coverage, which I think is very applicable today in terms of, the tsunamis, the weather that we're having. You think about Tennessee and the devastation there and the loss of life from the tornadoes. It's just awful. But how do you verify things that are moving so quickly in times of crisis? And so these are some digital verification handbooks, completely open source, completely free, not library science, but kind of related to some of the things that we're doing. How to verify things, different things like that. So how do we move forward with this idea of verifying the truth in a digital environment? One of my favorite quotes is, "I think I'll trust, but verify." I think skepticism is definitely a weapon we can use. It's in our toolkit already from day one, right? It will help deflect spin, propaganda, PR, BS, press agents, publicity seekers, hearsay, unnamed sources, and anyone with a hidden agenda. So skepticism is that little voice that tells you, and basically to me it's my gut voice, that you'll never be a millionaire with little or no money down, right? It's a quality. It's shared by truth seekers, free thinkers, and realists, and I would also say librarians. And again, we'll do what we've always done. We have cautious optimism. We like to get information when we want to make sure it's true. We'll use some of the strategies that we talked about today. We'll check our facts. Consider multiple reliable sources. Again, all about being skeptical, and we'll verify as much as we can. Sometimes you can't find a complete answer. That's the hardest thing I've had to realize in my career. So what do you have? How far can you go based on the facts that you have in front of you, and make a judgment? So thank you very much. We're just about out of time, but if you have any questions, please feel free to email me if you'd like a copy of the presentation. I know that Swiftlin is going to post the recording of this and the PowerPoint. But if you have any questions from me, yeah, I keep looking at things all the time. This is a fantastic opportunity because I actually learn from you guys by putting things together. So thank you so much for coming. And again, have a fantastic day. I'm going to be quiet, so I think Cindy can talk, and I'll just say goodbye for now. Thank you so much
And thank you, Dr. Rollins,
for
for that
attending today.
informative webinar. Those were some really great sites, y'all. I plan on making notes and going back and rewatching this. And folks, if you enjoyed this webinar, we are having an amazing workshop with Brian Pitchman on Wednesday, March 11th from 9 to 4 here at our Swiftlin office. That workshop is Understanding and Exploring Other Realities, virtual, augmented, and mixed. As always, we encourage you to keep an eye on the Swiftlin CE calendar, Swiftlin Facebook page, or your message from the listserv. Thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you have a terrific rest of your day. Thank you so much.